It is a ballet I do here sometimes, hitting play on the video, record on the OBS, the streaming software, free for everybody, and as well, then I have to hit play on the music. Welcome back, Artist Journal, July 23rd, 2025. My name's Adrian Pocobelli. Broadcasting from the rainy clouds of the mind, which are below us in inner space. As we jump from cloud to cloud, my first words of the morning to you, my friends. So here we go. Okay, let's go back to the start. We have a new Journal of Sleep. We have a new episode of, as you see here, and I'll back up to the start in a second here. But as you see here, this absolutely one-of-a-kind, unique, something very special, that we have here with the Kurt Hustle Collective. As you can see, every frame of this video, a joy to look at here. Let's go to the start. It is 2 minutes. I don't think they're going to sue me for playing more than 30 seconds. I guess we'll find out. This is my favorite part.
It was like a cereal commercial. And as I was eating my cereal, the hills from the kitchen started rolling along. My curiosity had my vision fly through the window.
The dinosaur.
And when I looked down to the grass, I saw a gremlin bathing in my cereal bowl, singing his heart out. Then, all of a sudden, the gremlin got sucked down into the bowl, dragging my side into the milk. And when I looked up, I saw my neighbor Letty frolicking in a cave and presenting himself. He started walking towards me, talking about all his important business schedules and how he ain't got time for nothing. And for abruptly walking off.
I don't want to say anything.
I faded and brought me back to my bedroom. I woke up in a slight sweat, but with no will to get out of bed. Just laying there, thinking and taking in my surroundings. I hesitated to turn the light off as I continued to sweat all along.
Oh my God.
I felt peaceful and nourished, laying there. Then my alarm went off, and I hit the snooze button and accepted my moment of stagnation.
Every frame, a classic here. Oh my God. So, the Journal of Sleep does not disappoint. I have to say, the exit, the outro here, is... You see the masterful work here. Look at the color. Like, and the satire, almost, of, 1980s television. And even the static. I mean, right? I mean, this looks like, this looks like, this is my favorite part, the dinosaur eating cereal. But frankly, these people, the Kurt Hustle Collective, they look like they have experience with, real broadcast television from, 30 years ago. That's what, you see masters at work here. I think Absurdity had that, let me silence that. I think Absurdity had that, no, it was Hen Collector, who was saying, look at what's not being said. It's kind of fun to think about that within here. There's no mistakes, I would argue. There are no mistakes. Where's the part where you're like, well, I'm not so sure what to think about that. I mean, everything is kind of look on with grandeur. And one of the coolest, frankly, artists on the entire blockchain. I mean, if you're starting to think in those terms, what's the coolest thing going on here? Which is a fun way to think. Perhaps why I often associate them with Haiti Rocket. Also a very cool artist, right? So all to say, not a ton of time. I have to get a haircut here. today shortly. But wow, what a piece! Now 275. They sent me one. We're discussing. Where were we discussing pricing and preventing the bots? So I sent them 50 Tezos just in case anybody's wondering. That is all on the blockchain. So anyway, sold out. I'm glad to see at 50 Tezos, which is not nothing these days. So all to say, awesome. Just rad artwork. We have another one. They've gone fishing. So we'll be back soon. So I guess they're taking, this is like their annual summer break that they take, and they usually put out a work to celebrate it. And there is Terry Visual and JNK and perhaps JNK. And I think they might be French. I am not sure. And a big fish. So I'll just say, that also was just released. Get a Kurt Hustle Collective for 3 Tezos. So there's something for everybody. To get us started here on our Wednesday, on our rainy Wednesday here in Berlin, Pocobelli, artist, educator, creator of Artist Journal, always traveling through the mediums. Wonderful. So thank you, Martin Joe. What a rad artwork here. Part of the portraits that Martin Joe was doing, love the 2 colors. Kind of speaks to some of the work I was doing there. Rad. This is on-chain, interestingly, and that is 420, still available. So only 3 gone. So anyway, thank you, Martin Joe. Awesome work. And also thank you to David Lockhart last week for putting this work together. I believe this Tezos GIF animation portrait. Not sure if there's AI in here or not. Either way, thank you for that. There you see the books in the background and your friend, your television host here. Okay, let's go to the comments. So thank you, David Lockhart and Martin Joe. Let's go to the comments. I think we only had a couple here. Jason Miller, lovely to see a YouTuber as passionate and consistent as you. Excited to watch all the upcoming artist journals. Thanks. Thank you. And great to hear from you, Jason. I appreciate the comment. And Fatty, thank you for the comment. Also on X, thank you for the support. Nice response. KOS. Oh, another one. You're cranking these out like generative AI. So yeah. So generally speaking, the schedule is Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I may take a week or 2 off here. I'm just spending time in Berlin. I need to catch up with stuff, but let's see. For the time being, I'm sticking to the schedule. So thank you for the comment. Jozo, thanks a lot, Pocobelli, for opening the show with my work and for your historic insights on digital art. Haven't thought about the influence video games had on my aesthetic perception. This is actually quite profound, isn't it? And I'm not sure if I mentioned aesthetic perception or if Zozo is mentioning aesthetic perception, but I love this term because it kind of captures what we're talking about here. It's like the ambiance, the visual ambiance of video games that we grew up with, and it kind of hits us all a little bit differently depending when you grew up. Like I was born in 1979, so for me it's like Apple II games when I was 6 years old, and you're a 6-year-old and you're looking at these games and you're just excited as heck, right? You are so excited to play these games, and the graphics. I'm kind of back to the graphics. Arguably are the main, I don't know if I'd call them the main selling point, but they probably are, and they have been for a long time, interestingly. Like, what is Mario Brothers without the graphics? Right? Like, let's just call it a core component. Like, when we think of all of these video games, we do think of them in visual terms, I would argue. I mean, is there a video game that you don't first think of in visual terms? So, and perhaps I'm stating the obvious here, but it's worth mentioning. Because if we're growing up in this, visual aquarium, so to speak, or this visual ambiance, like it will, as artists working in a certain time and place, it will, we have certain experiences that shape our perception, as you put it, our aesthetic perception. So all to say, I'm glad that resonated with you. Zozo is such a great artist and kind of an interesting case for that whole discussion of, how much did video games influence Zozo? And probably a lot. And even, it's not like I had a Nintendo console. But I understand, but I was still around it. I still went to my friends' places, right? And I still grew up with the Apple computer. We still had computers, right? So I still enmeshed in it, as we all are. One could argue. Who's not familiar with Mario Brothers? Especially as a kid, right? Most of us were exposed. When I was a kid, Mario Brothers on the Apple II was just like that. It's like version 1, where it's like Luigi on one side and Mario on the other, and then the little POW thing in the middle, and then it was like a very simple kind of 2D kind of game. Going back. Anyways, let's continue. Thank you for the comment, and thank you for the question. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Rural Idol, it's not your grandfather's digital art, one for the ages. That is hilarious. I find it funny that you find it funny. Thank you, Rural Idol. Thank you for the comment, and glad you like that. Nostalgia Unlimited, missed this yesterday, but glad I didn't totally miss it because these selections made my day brighter. Great to hear, Nostalgia. Actually, we have a work by you, about 2/3 the way through the show, so thank you for the comment. I think it was Romina before, but now it is Romaine. But perhaps it's someone else. You really dedicated yourself to art. I hope something good happens to you. Indeed, thank you. I hope something good happens to you as well. And I think something good is happening here Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Regardless, it continues. One more episode here. August Ground, wabi-sabi is fundamental. Really an incredible philosophic and aesthetic idea, so very Japanese. Quite interesting because this wabi-sabi, finding the imperfections and celebrating them, is very much, I would argue, something you could even, and again, it depends how you define modern and postmodern art, but where you start to see it, with the chance, of Max Ernst, doing those early pre-Pollock. Where did Pollock get his idea for the dripping paint and everything? Kind of looks like it came from Max Ernst. Maybe we can bring that up just very quickly. I don't really have time, but it's worth noting because probably a lot of you haven't seen this. Right, this famous work here. The Ernst see this? This is pre-Pollock. Now, who knows? I mean, it's sooner or later someone was going to do this. But I believe here, as you can see, what Ernst did was he put a hole, I believe, at the bottom of basically a paint can or some sort of thing that can hold paint. And then you see it's almost like it's swinging, right? And so here we're using chance, right? Ernst used texture, the wood, the frottage, so to speak, where, on the wood paneling of the floor. The internet these days, look at this. I mean, and you're trying to look at your painting here with DM is trying to advertise to you, and then you look at AI and it's like this nice, clean interface. All they got to do is show the images now, and it's kind of like we have a full replacement of the internet. Interestingly. Anyway, that is a sidetrack. So I'll just say we're discussing randomness. We're discussing wabi-sabi. And so just kind of interesting how this philosophical idea actually became, you could argue, is kind of what I'm calling a kind of a crucial, if not one of the defining aspects of quote unquote, the modern painter. The modern artist uses chance, uses randomness. And again, the key to randomness is why you want to use it and incorporate it. Ultimately, what I would call like a controlled or edited randomness is because when you incorporate randomness into your technique, you start being able to do things that you never even thought you could do because in a sense you couldn't do them. You're letting chance do stuff, and all of a sudden you're getting stuff that, what the great example of this is, which almost everybody can relate to, is you have music playing in your living room, but you have the TV with the sound down. And as happens seemingly every single time, the music seems to line up with the video, right? And you're going, well, how is that isn't this weird phenomenon? And so this is the thing with chance. It's remarkable how oftentimes when you use chance, how often it works. So it's really about setting the parameters of chance to kind of get optimum outcomes. And I would argue this is kind of a different mentality from, the master painter who paints things so perfectly and then that is the end of the story. And I'm thinking of Perugino and Raphael, bless their incredible, hearts, their just unbelievable talents, right? But ultimately, when we're talking this modern thing, I mean, what makes it modern? And I use modern in quotes here. I almost want to say small m modern. What makes it modern, right? So I'll just say, wabi-sabi is kind of an interesting Eastern, Japanese angle on this whole notion. Perhaps they had it all figured out, so to speak. I don't know when it was invented, but interesting. Anyways, let's continue. Thank you for the comment. No hygiene, you are so kind. Thank you, my friend. You are so talented. I don't know if we have a no hygiene this episode, but we do almost every episode. Excuse me. IRA, the rabbit, wow. Thank you for the comment. Presidente de Internet, thank you for the comment. Paula Cordero, great show, Adrian. Thanks, great show. Thanks, Adrian. Interesting idea, creating a temporary meme art coin for your name. Why not? Well, I don't encourage that. In a sense, I don't want it. If it happens and whatever, but I actually would not want that to happen. Interestingly, I put it this way, and this will actually come up a bit later, and it's not to say that it's necessarily a bad thing, but how do these things end? Right? It's kind of like I was discussing that episode. And usually how these things end is the person who starts the coin has, half the, supply and then gives out the other half and then dumps on everybody new who decides, oh, I like Pocobelli and I'm going to buy. And that's why I don't want it, because I don't want people to get scammed, basically, by whomever decides to do that. So in a sense, were that to happen, I don't endorse it. And let's all, the only circumstance is, and again, it's like if all of the supply was given away and it was verifiable and everything, then you can start to go, okay. Now I'm thinking let's do a Roon. So anyways, thank you for the comment and I appreciate that. That's very nice of you to say. So that's why not though. Little cakes, corn dog for telephonics, we'll call them there. Okay, awesome. So Tradscape, who does the music for this show, both the beginning and the ending, those are NFTs that I purchased on Tezos. And with a little write-up saying you can use this for stuff exactly like this show, so it's kind of made to be. Tradscape, who is sometimes on X, has a new album. Well, I've been away. One of the things I've been working on is this first album with my band. Here's a sneak peek at a track I really like. So happy to share this here. Just a little bit. If it plays. It does. Because this show wouldn't be the same without the music that starts and ends it. So pretty nice. I am transported instantly to a beautiful club, sipping away at my Weinschorle. Feels like Friday over here, chasing the blues away. So that is by Tradscape. So check it out. Give a retweet to Tradscape. Cal Flemmer. I am extra excited about this anthology because I'm not a critic. Artist, but I understand why I'd be called that. But artist, what would I guess it's just a public journal. Extraordinary. Pocobelli wrote the foreword. So thank you for the comment, Kyle, and thank you for the invite to write the foreword. I was pretty happy with how it worked out, the foreword there. And so, yeah, Kyle, Tezos Art Review. As you see, Pixel Art Anthology is coming August 12th. Pre-order this colorful crash course through the Pixel Art Underground from the Blasted Tree now. So how cool is that? And look at that perfect cover by Ed Marola. This may be worth money one day. Maybe there should be a book sign-in somewhere. I don't know where you'd do it, but cool. Kyle Flemmer, check out Kyle's page there to learn more about how you can get that. Tezos, back below $1. So you got to be careful here. I'm kind of, these kind of pumps that go straight up. Everybody's singing triumphal music and, marching bands. And all of a sudden, we're at 94 cents. Now let's just make sure everything is good. Let's continue. Beanie, before you buy into the latest Tezos pump, happens every cycle. Keep in mind that these are the people that at one point actually convinced the world that Ethereum NFT minting caused an environmental catastrophe. I don't think that's true. I think Tezos rode that wave, but I don't think that's true. I think that was a narrative that came from the mass media, which wanted, and there was a very strong reaction against NFTs, and the environment became the main reason. I mean, Ethereum, one could argue, shifted over from proof of work, what some would call a real blockchain, to proof of stake, where it's now more centralized and more manipulatable. When you talk to people who are like deep in the market, I remember I did that in Bangkok at some crypto accelerator thing. It doesn't sound like the most decentralized situation. Let's put it that way. And so I don't think it was Tezos. Like, they kind of rode the wave of clean NFT because they're a proof of stake in a sense, you could say, before it was cool. So they rode that wave, why shouldn't they? It's a competitive world out there. So I don't know what Beanie's talking about here. Only to create a massive pump and dump of Tezos NFTs on Hiket Nunks. So just kind of what I wanted to share here, the reason I'm sharing this, I think it speaks to the tribalism in the space. Now, Beanie is a pretty popular kind of account. Isn't necessarily a big ETH bull either, from what I recollect. But you do see the tribalism that exists. Like, I'm multi-chain. I don't know why it happens, to be honest. It's kind of sci-fi. In a certain degree, it's kind of cool, the tribalism. Like, I don't think it's inherently cool, but it's kind of cool that there are these different techno tribes, right? But that's just purely from a eating popcorn sort of view, not from a, like, otherwise it's like, I guess people get really invested in what they're invested in. As an artist, I think you just have to be multi-chain. You want to put work on Bitcoin. You want to put work on Ethereum. You want to definitely put work on Tezos. You're crazy as an artist if you're not on Tezos, if you ask me. And I've kind of said that for 400 shows here, maybe 385, when I started bringing on, works beyond Tezos, Phantom Scribbler, with treasuries hinting at buying culturally significant digital art. So, right, the high-end market for NFTs could evolve into a game of who you can trick into buying your bags. Lads jockeying for position of influence, same as it ever was. Now, kind of a different take actually here. My bags equals, so my investments equals the real ones, the authentic ones, not my investments equals cabal scam. Put it this way. We're getting the vibes of 2021 because NFTs have taken off. I have a couple of tabs more on this kind of NFT, especially the Ethereum NFTs, and we see the PFPs. We're getting this weird rehash of 2021, early 2022, I believe January 2022, when NFTs peaked out. And it's kind of weird. And I think what's interesting here, and what's important to remember, is a lot of these, Ethereum influencers, like, let's see how many, Beanie's a big account, so 30,000 views, but we're talking 16 retweets. Like, this show regularly gets 50 to 60, okay? 2 retweets. These are, some of the bigger, at least as far as I understand. I mean, how many followers does Phantom? 17,000, So they're not as, they're important within bubbles, but within the wider world, I don't see these accounts as particularly, I consider my show kind of tiny. Maybe not tiny, but it's not I was telling people the other day, maybe I mentioned it here, for the first time in Berlin, on maybe a week ago, I went out and someone's like, Adrian, I haven't seen you in months. My cousin in London was saying that they watch your show and that it influenced them. That was the first time. So, all to say, I don't consider these, Jedi Wolf, 110 retweets, okay, that's bigger, 44,000 views, that's bigger, but again, this isn't 400,000 views. This isn't 4 million views, right? That's big. So let's look at what it says here. It's not tiny, it's not small, but it's not gigantic either. Jedi Wolf, I think this is the most spectacular CryptoPunk sweep we've seen since 2022, maybe even 2021. So 2021 vibes are back. 76 punks were acquired within 5 hours for approximately $13.5 million. Over 35 squiggles were also acquired during this period. Now, we were just seeing recently, or at least I was looking, these things were down at like $3 million. Put it this way, or sorry, 3 ETH, I think, and they were at 10 when I'd last checked. I don't know what they are right now. But what I see here is rampant speculation. You could even say the Tezos price doubling kind of overnight or going up 70 or 80%. It kind of feels like we may be at the end of a bubble. Put it this way, and who knows, we could keep going here and we could be off to Valhalla, as they say, going to, Bitcoin $500,000 and we all get taken with it. Wouldn't that be fabulous? But we're also seeing all the characteristics here of the late stages of a financial bubble. We're going to see more here. Sales in the last 24 hours. So another prominent account, 88,000. Okay, it's pretty, to be fair, that's a pretty big result. 203 retweets. 293 moonbirds, 248 little pudgies, 180. So as you see here, all of your, Bored Ape Yacht Club, Mutant Ape Yacht Club. So a lot of these 2021 NFTs are now pumping. Going up for everyone that missed it, 296 punks, 358 apes. The Fidenzas are pumping, 160 squiggles, and 600 autoglyphs were swept in the last 24 hours. So this is just the beginning. Pack your bags. So when everybody is thinking along the same lines, though, this is what I'm thinking to myself. And, don't come to me for financial advice, because I'm probably not your guy. But when I see all of this, everybody thinking along the same way here, it's kind of a orange flag, shall we say. Phantom Scribbler, if I was a chronically underwater NFT bag holder, I would probably lean into the current meta and try to raise money for a fund treasury, etc., and simply sell them my bags as the final exit liquidity opportunity. But I'm sure nobody has considered that, probably being sarcastic. And so, so again, like all of a sudden you're advising some treasury that wants to get into NFTs because Raoul Pal is telling them that this is the greatest investment ever. And then here, okay, and actually I didn't even bring it up. I think Cosimo, I forgot to bring it up. Let me just see. How do you spell Cosimo? Here we go. I think may have just sold. I thought I saw something. Cosimo for, how do you spell COZ? I thought I saw something just this morning on selling his punk, but maybe that was just false information. We'll check next episode. Let's continue. Eli Scheinman. When the global financial system runs on Ethereum, early on-chain art will hold a level of historical significance that's hard to fully appreciate today. So again, we're getting this everybody on one side of the boat, and here's another one. Another prominent crypto account, Justin Trimble. When the global financial system runs on Ethereum, fully on-chain projects like Mooncats, launched in August 2017, will be recognized as digital antiquities from the genesis era of a decentralized culture, and you can buy one right now for 0.15 ETH. I did a search on Mooncat, and this is what I got. So I put Mooncat. If you put Mooncats, it's a little bit better, but it's not even every image here or anything. So again, which makes me wonder, again, if you have even a 10,000 work collection, and then you have the people who are willing to sell in that 10,000 work collection, the so-called floor of that market, it really doesn't take, and then you have one person, a couple of people sweep the floor. Like, how liquid of a market is this? This is incredibly speculative markets, is what I would say. And just like we saw a lot of projects go up and down and these NFTs go up and down, I mean, it's the result of, I would argue, a low liquidity market. Do you want to invest in a low liquidity market? Maybe you do if you feel you're on the right side of the trade here. So just kind of interesting. Continuing on. So again, 2021 vibes in the house, and it's kind of interesting. Also, I'd just finally add on this. Like, it reminds me of growing up in a kind of a smaller city. And, you know, in the 90s, there was the rave scene, and it was actually surprisingly good. We had DJ DeCozy, who was actually a pretty major Canadian, maybe the major Canadian DJ. One of them was from actually Saskatoon, and he would put on these incredible parties. So we were very lucky there. But because it was so kind of good for Saskatoon, 20 years later, they're having reunion to, you know, like in Saskatoon, like they never let it go. And it was always about these, you know, golden age times back in the 90s. And maybe there's something to be said for it. But I kind of feel like the same thing is happening with this Ethereum thing. It's like, oh, remember when 2021, and now they're trying to relive it. Weirdly. For me. Maybe not for them. So let's see what happens. Anyways, let's continue. Sunny, so what happens when heavyweight in real life artists arrive with their art NFTs? I think this is super interesting because we're not seeing any of that, I would argue. We have, like, I'm getting no calls from friends saying, hey, how do I set up on the blockchain? Like, none. I'll go out tonight. I'm going to go to that Joachim, the Kristen Yellerdy show tonight. Let's see. But I'm not hearing anything. Whereas in 2021, it was like messages all the time, like, what's going on here? How do I get signed up from artists' friends? So, again, I'm not convinced that the Ethereum culture and this whole kind of pump and dump culture, like in a sense what Beanie's accusing the Tezos crowd in 2021 of doing, weirdly to me, news to me, I don't really see that in the listings, but maybe that happened. I don't know. You know, what do we actually see in Ethereum culture is oftentimes this kind of weird pumps like we're seeing, and then, you know, big dumps. So anyways, that's what happens if you invest in low liquidity markets. It's just nature of the beast. And art's a very low liquidity market. Anyways, let's continue. Absurdity. Not sure about the inevitability of in real life heavyweight artists arriving. Art on the blockchain has been described by Pocobelli as the democratization of art. I probably haven't used that. I was actually surprised to see that, but I could see, of course, sure. It is more democratic in the sense of anybody, there's no gates, right? Anybody can, you know, set up shop here, especially on Object, on Tezos. Democracies were not embraced by the monarchies, and I fully expect a similar attitude of disdain will persist for some time among in real life royalty until they are essentially irrelevant, similar to the landowning royalty of the Gilded Age. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting how this all plays out. I mean, part of me wanting to move to Paris is to try and reach out to actual galleries and actually just see what is possible here, or to real collectors, you know, or I should say traditional collectors. Let's put it that way. So let's see what happens. And I haven't moved to Paris. Like, I'm going for a month here and there. It's kind of a work in progress. I'm going nomad as of October, at least for a few months, and then we'll see. So anyways, just kind of interesting. We're not seeing any, like, I'm not getting any calls. Nobody's talking about it. Interesting, of people in my kind of circles. Luke Weaver, I'm sorry, but this is wrong. This is interesting and borderline dishonest. The best way to capitalize in the creator coin economy is to dump on your collectors' heads over and over. You want to normalize that? Fine, but there's no way that not selling is the optimal strategy to make money. It's a very interesting point. I mean, I don't know how it works exactly, but either don't you get like 10% of the coins as the creator, and then so if it starts going up, the incentive of the creator is to sell your coins to the people who are buying them, right? So it's a new paradigm. Jesse at base. So they keep trying to push this creator coin thing. And I kind of agree with this last post. Like, I mean, if the creator is going to get coins, basically, if anybody gets any kind of allocation going in, I don't see how it works in a fair way. And if people keep on getting burned, how is that, you know, sustainable long term? I mean, you can do it short term, but it's just like NFTs. How many people came in from outside of crypto, started speculating because everybody was getting rich, and then just got completely demolished, and then have to go back to their wife or their husband and, you know, basically say, I lost thousands of dollars of our money buying JPEGs. You know, and you're wondering why I'm not getting the calls saying, hey, what's going on with NFTs this cycle? So I think there's a little bit of delusion, actually, that's going on here, and I could be wrong. as far as, these 2021 PFP things going up, I could be totally wrong. Maybe there'll be digital antiquities and collectibles. I see Ethereum, very deeply entrenched Ethereum, basically investors loving that stuff. But if you're not involved in that, do you care? So let's just continue. Amelia Versace. I truly don't understand how continuing to develop new chains or even having one's own coin is better for artists. I've been in the NFT space 4 years and I can't keep up. Imagine first-time collectors whom artists need trying to navigate the space today. It's a great point. So, of course, I follow Amelia Versace. Now, here's someone who's probably doing it well. I mean, I think Cap'n has also got some sort of coin thing going on. Walk's going up here, so let's see, let's see. I mean, Walk has this nice little market cap here. I keep an open mind, and so let's see what happens here. But I totally take Amelia's point. But here's Walk, and again, Cap'n had one. I should have brought that up. And so let's see. But I think it's been very challenging for artists in the last year or two who have launched meme coins. Maybe Walk is an exception. If there's going to be an exception, it's probably going to be Walk. Retro Manny, something new from me, been exploring pixel art in more depth and minted this fully on-chain as an SVG animation. Right, so if you're looking to keep things small, if you remember Uxine's Ordinal that I think we started the show with way back, it was an SVG. And they actually make pretty nice kind of gradient animations. So to get a 1:1 ratio that upscales in the browser. A square image so that it upscales in the browser. So you probably have to do that too. SVG is worth looking into. I haven't actually minted with SVG, but it's probably not rocket science. Ex-Mortal, pulling out some old paintbrushes. And I kind of love this. It brought me to these definitions that we're discussing in the second generation of digital art. And I was, how I say the advent of graphic user interfaces, and I'll say, painting with a computer. But it's interesting because here you're not really, there's no act of paint, there's no gesture of painting here, but you do have a graphic user interface. So as we zero in, and I would consider this work what I'd loosely call second generation of digital art. Again, so grew up with video games, graphic user interface. There we go, graphic user interface. And so that's the thing, which includes painting with a computer being maybe the most obvious example, but it can include this. So this is a graphic user interface, I would argue, where you're looking and you have, it's kind of a hardware blend as well, but ultimately you're controlling things and looking at things visually, unlike the first generation of digital art where you're kind of blind, which has its benefits, actually, because you don't know what's going to happen exactly, where you're just kind of putting in permutations. I'll just say, Roland always just puts out this fetishistically beautiful gear. I love the Japanese writing on there, too. Got a Japanese version of the V5. I think that's an older one. Just gorgeous equipment from Roland. Here's Hermipe. Look at this trading card. How devastatingly cool is this? Let's just see what it says. Year-end solo exhibition, announcement card foil stamping, and a test of changing texture in specific areas. Is Hermipe putting together a trading card exhibition? It wouldn't surprise me. Hermipe is pretty darn freaking cool, as you can see here. One of my favorite artists out there has minted on the blockchain before, but hasn't really done it recently. Maybe for a lot of the reasons we're discussing. Here's more from Hermipe. Let's see what it says. A celebratory envelope made for giving to family members. So pretty rad over from Hermipe. Here's Inatooth, and I believe this is also Japanese. And can we translate it? Pixel Art Park 8, I will be selling goods at Night Peppermint's booth. So here are some of the goods. Some more pixel art in real life, interestingly. Kind of goes nicely. I think this stuff's popular. So very cool. Here's Zozo, a reflection of Sue Fujimoto on gradations and a painting by me. A reflection by Sue Fujimoto on gradations. Okay, so I think this is the reflection down here. So, too bad we don't have more time. I'd like to go through this. Here's the painting, but check out Zozo's piece. Didn't get much love there. I think it was maybe just posted. But Zozo, check that out. Beautiful physicals. Now, are those paintings? And a painting. This is a painting, interestingly. Would love to see some canvases, some physical canvases by Zozo. Acid Boy, how about this? In a hyper-digital world, Acid Boy offers a physical alternative. No filters, just you and the art. So we're back to what I believe is the lenticular print. I mean, perfect solution here. Perfect. It's like totally manual. Like you require no electricity. There is our good friend, the master of psychedelic abstraction, Acid Boy, I believe. There, let me just stop that. And here is Zozo again, Light Ghost. So new work by Zozo. Pray. This is the great thing about making a lot of art. You make a lot of art, you're doing variations, so let's do some grass, you're less precious about it. Oh, we'll put some jazz on this one. How great. Love the vibe. And these circles. Anyways, I could go on and on about artwork for Always Believing in Ghost Auction by Cody of Houston for Accump Arts. So that'll go to auction. Juana Pedro, Porcupine Night. So some newer works by Juana Pedro, and so here, a clue that this is a porcupine. And here, kind of in a moonscape, this is an edition of one, selling for 85 Tezos. Nice sale. And here is another work called Norm G, and thank you, Daggy D, for sending me a copy. Norm G, and here we can see another work by abstract work. Beautiful. Again, the power of making a lot of work is you come up with these cool variations and all of a sudden you're making these works, you know, that you may not have even thought of, but you're working so much, you just get a whole bunch of stuff starts coming out. Wonderful way to work. So here, this sold out at 7 Tezos and the market just rewards it. It's fantastic. Nov 1914, Lugar Perdido. So really cool work here, kind of breaking up the canvas, so to speak, into 3 different areas here with these kind of frames. And again, continuing these kind of edgy abstractions here. And so now I'm trying to, so these look like 3 different works, don't they? All put together, interestingly. And so this sold for 70 Tezos. Here's Los Ojos Dentro, picked up by Mr. Bezold for 60 Tezos. So here, again, a little bit more high, almost a little bit more high res. We see almost these pipes again. And what looks like maybe a tree, they kind of look like landscapes, don't they? So cool work here. Edition of 1 from Nov 1914, and one more, Campo Continuo. And so more experimentation, edition of 5 for 30 Tezos, as you see, kind of a 3D representation here. Not worrying about, like it's not the perfect resolution here, just working with things. I love it. Love it, love it, and cool frames. And also divided up. Here is Mishi Asu, Yukyuku, and this is animated. This is an open edition. 2 have been minted so far, 6 Tezos. So again, pretty challenging work with Mishi Asu, as you see, kind of an acquired taste to a certain degree. But when you do, then you start to really appreciate the colors, the purposeful kind of fuzziness, and the interesting kind of obscure subject matter, but that is very kind of consistent. Dream of Mud, edition of 1 for 23 Tezos. Again, similar color scheme. It's kind of like No Hygiene. There's a consistency in the aesthetic over time, and the repetition helps. You know, so it helps just kind of persuade. Scamra, all 4s. So here's sort of a animal of sorts here, playing with pixelation and textures. And cool colors here too. From Scamra, this is an edition of 25. And this is selling for 15 Tezos each. So cool work there. Here's Scamra also with an art history piece, one assumes. And so maybe a remix. Look at that brilliant hand here. And the 3 legs and everything. So just gorgeous textures from Scamra using AI. Stable diffusion. The isolationist, the sad artist. So cool work here. Look at that. Look at all the work that goes in here and all of the randomness that is being utilized here. So nice controlled randomness, nice textures here, and even looking like a bit of probably digital spray, if I had to guess, not sure. Nice piece, almost like a halo there in purple. Edition of 10 and selling out at 30 Tezos. So bringing in a quick 300, basically $300, $280. Supper by Yuri J. Highest bid 0.12, $442. This is great work. Here, let me just bring it up. We are cruising, my friends. The computer is a little loud. The internet is a little slow. Let's see if it loads up. Give it just a couple more seconds here, and I think we're going to have to leave it. But maybe we can do this. Maybe it's the same issue. There we go. So here it is. What is this called again? So it is being bid on. There are 2 bidders so far. And this is called Supper. Gorgeous work here by Yuri J. Just this kind of domestic interior and all of the super rich textures here. And just, the mosaic. Nice piece. Again, kind of a modernist, kind of feel. This could be like a Matisse or a Picasso or something in terms of just the overall subject matter. Almost like, what it reminds me of weirdly is like the Blue Period, where there's this guy with a guitar, like these kind of thing where you just kind of like have a subject and then there's a bit of margin and that's it. And you just really target that subject. I know that you could probably say that for centuries beforehand, but there is something kind of modernist on that. Let's continue. Daybreaker. This is Admirola, edition of 16. So interesting framing device here. Some bitmapization here, or some dithering is what I'm trying to say, and just this kind of creature out here with blue dithering everywhere and almost this kind of Renaissance-like frame, or could be also Islamic art. Daybreaker, edition of 16, and I believe that's sold out. No, it's 16 Tezos each. It is sold out on primary, now 60 Tezos on secondary. To the Throne, Dan Control with a wild work here. So there is Dan Control, as we saw in a previous work, seemingly as a cockroach, I believe, or a bug on the king's throne, or on a big fancy chair. So as we see here, it kind of looks like a king's throne, actually. And then putting the classic landscape in the background. This is an edition of 1, unlisted, no offers yet. Some brilliant works here. Of course, I follow Dan Control. Taking Mickey Mouse, love the background here. And then, boom, center align. Center align. Boom, center align. Vertical, center align. Hilarious. Brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant. Original. Air traffic, 1,000 lands. Gorgeous. Look at this. Gorgeous textures here, 1,000 lands. Look at this. Beautiful work here. Continuing the legroom, I love the title there, airport series. Here is Bolin 132. Red Dog. Haven't seen their work for a while. I believe digital collage and digital painting. So quite a large work here and pretty nice, as you see. So here, again, not worrying about the, getting the perfect resolutions here. So pretty cool, interesting outline, and pretty smooth. It all kind of, works together. Look at that. But you do start to see a line there, right? But it kind of works pretty nicely as a whole. So here's Moda MT. I lend my ear, not my soul. Nice digital painting here. Interestingly, with the persistence of memory in the background there. And there is, I believe, Moda MT on a couch. So beautiful digital painting. I love basically the genuineness of the work. This is quite beautiful too here. I believe this is a digital. Interesting here. Here you see what looks like an underpainting. This is a great technique, by the way, where you just put some brush strokes and then you put work on top, and all of a sudden, this starts looking, I call it instant poetry. That's what happens here. When you just put some randomness of brush strokes, and then you start putting a little bit of order on top of the randomness, and you get a natural contrast. That's why that works, I would argue. And so, interesting. It looks like a cigarette there, perhaps, and a plant, and again, nice textures here. So cool work from Moda MT, edition of 1, and that sold for 70 Tezos. Nice sale. Here is Uxine with an edgy work. I didn't know whether to put this on the show, but I thought it was a good kind of, satire here. Generally, I'd try and keep it pretty family friendly here. But the bars, I thought this was a pretty brilliant and pretty well executed work. And there is a commentary here, which I thought was kind of interesting too. And there is the skull. So interesting piece from Uxine, selling out at 69 Tezos. Here, really cool work here by the Myth. Let's open it in a new tab. Don't look into people's eyes, it's a trap. So the president, seemingly, of the US with a Myth mask, and then little Myth figures, little Myth homunculi, and the flag in the background. How cool is that? So that is available on Super Rare, a reserve of 0.2 ETH. Gorgeous work from the Myth. Just a master of color. Let's see if Rainy Fish's work is going to play here. Do not enter Bamboo Town. And so here. Cool, kind of psychedelic. The music there. Very cool work here. Was that a didgeridoo? Do not enter Bamboo Town. That is 330 Tezos, and my internet may be failing here. It is slow. It is working. So that's 330 Tezos 2 weeks ago. I don't think I showed that before. I may have, though. Digital art influencer tattooed himself a Tezos logo. I thought this was pretty funny. Open edition, only a Tezos. 21 minted so far. Cool work by Jake Studios. And so, yeah, I thought it was incredibly ironic. And weird, actually, is how I'd call it, where Tezos goes up 70-80% in price overnight, and then it got everybody excited about the art on Tezos, which I find totally, I get it, but I try and maybe that's why I do this show here, but it's like, I think of the art, and the art has value. It's not because the coin goes up, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, now the art has value, and now we have to care about Tezos. So all to say, maybe that's part of the commentary that's going on here. Digital art influencer tattooed. Now I've always been about Tezos, this sort of thing. Again, I don't understand why people are so tribal. At least if you're a art influencer, let's say, or you're an art person, curator, artist, gallerist, why are you sticking to one chain? I don't understand. What's the benefit? And then all that really does is kind of pigeonhole you as a very crypto person, right? And is that really your PR that you want as you walk into, Gagosian and start talking to people at the opening? I'm a very crypto person. Is that a good PR? I'm just asking. I don't think so. Right? You want to be like, I'm an art person, and it happens to be on the blockchain, and that's fine. And yeah, so all to say, yeah, Jordy Gandul, terms and conditions. Maybe this is older too. Cool work here, kind of a Tezos, classic Tezos artist. This is July 22nd, 2025. This is new. Cool title. I think I saw it on X first. Terms and conditions, great subject. Here, this was posted in the comments of the community. JMPNTR, woman in a chair. I thought this was pretty cool. I would post it in the main feed. I just happened to see this. A woman in a chair from the Life Cycle series documenting the complete digital creative process from capture to collection through acts of everydayness. Interesting drawing is what I would say. So cool work in the community. Thank you for posting. Seba Sestero, What Grows Within. So another interesting animation here with the birds. Another surreal illustration from Seba Sestero. Always cool colors here. Cool composition. Here is Nick Shumika. Nick Shumika, post-dial-up domestic figurative art PC. Rad. Love the keyboard. It contrasts really nicely. I mean, was that done? I suspect the keyboard was done with the text in I assume this is Excel. And then I love the work on the PC. This is quite a stunning work, isn't it? Edition of 6. Sold out, or 4 are gone at 4 Tezos. You might be able to put in an offer, I imagine, for more. Enigmatris with a cool work here, posted on X, just a nice kind of still life, black and white ASCII text with kind of a painterly background. Cool work there. Here's Cider with a textured work, a little bit of text up there, 21. Not exactly sure what it is of, but kind of classic textures here. There's Walk. So maybe a sad face, maybe someone crying here in this little emoji. Love this series. 28 Tezos. Deggy D putting in a bid, and so it's getting harder to get your walks for cheap. Here's L'Inquisiteur. Danan. La vie de l'homme sage vaut un oracle. So the opinion, I believe, of a wise person is worth an oracle. Something to that effect. This is gorgeous. Gorgeous painting here. We're kind of back to prolificness. This is what happens when you're not getting too precious. You start going, okay, good enough for the I don't know, Greek column. And all of a sudden, you have brilliance like this, right? You have brilliance like this. This is what happens. So, it's key. It's almost like this is how you become a good artist, is you become prolific. You make a lot of work, and then flow is just really, I would say, is just making a lot of work, and then you automatically go into flow. This, to me, is like, I think flow gets over-mystified. This is an example of flow, and what it is someone who's just doing a lot of work, so their critical mind isn't worrying too much, and then they're just doing things without questioning, and then they go, there's my work, and then they take a step back and they go, wow, I didn't know if I could make that, before seeing it. Right? So edition of 1, selling for 65 Tezos. Love it. Cohost. Le savoir est une richesse qui s'accroît lorsqu'on le partage. So knowing is a richness that we know once we share it, I believe. So Burnsy Witch, L'Inquisiteur, another great work here, edition of 6. So not sure who this is supposed to be, and I can't read that. Cohost. Let's continue. Setting top down. This is pretty cool. Can't remember. Maybe Oblivion Fields may have posted this one. Interesting digital work. This looks like a digital brush. Inherently digital, in fact. Right? It's like you see this gradient going through the brushwork. Quite an original piece that seems to start with a completely different work. Or even two that are superimposed on top of each other and then painted over. Kind of unified. Very interesting piece here. Edition of 10 for 3 Tezos. And almost gone. Absurdity picking one up there. MCHX, pretty nice color field here. Are we doing good? So cool abstract there. Time, who of course I follow, Beach. Loving the minimal colors. We're back to prolificness. This is what happens when you make a lot of art. It doesn't diminish in quality. If you know what you're doing and you've spent a lot of time building. Let's see if this video collapses on it. Okay, I need to finish this video quickly. But this is another example of prolificness. If you've put in the time, the 10,000 hours, then you start becoming prolific. This is what happens. You start getting these interesting variations. Here's another one. That, and this variation looks like with layers on top, right? And you could ask which one is better. It's an interesting question. Should only one be released? It's an interesting question. Debt slavery. If you change the color on this one, and I don't even know if it's the same one, but it kind of looks like it with some layers over top. You change the color on this one and then add a few different layers. So this is digital art. We're back to Dan Control, actually. Another gorgeous work by Santiago. Look at this. So dragging the entire thing, turning it into one big brush. One big brush, right? One big sampled brush stroke, and then dragging it. Look at on the right, too. Love these works. Fabulous. Of course, I follow them. Nature According to Myself. This is Time as well. And I do need to speed up here. Kind of a different take. Again, we're back to prolificness. Here is Bite by Bit and this one was Burned. Love the subject, actually, this ballet, as we were discussing earlier on the top of the show, and cool gradient. This is using Instant Artist from 1992. And here's Tom Bombadil, GM, who of course I follow. who makes these really cool kind of retro pixel artworks, almost out of a sci-fi pulp novel. Here's Nostalgia, Betty Boop, and this is an open edition, 3 minted so far, a Tezos 50. And as you see here, kind of textures, probably AI, I think, involved here. And I need to continue before my, I need to speed through this. 3 minted so far. Here's Ed Wood's Hairy Teeth. Cool work here, edition of 20, and that is now 50 Tezos. And here is Pamela Chirone. Some really cool music here. I'm going to continue. Here is Haiti Rockette, a couple of really cool work system. So playing with these kind of algorithms, these movement algorithms, edition of 32. And here's another great one, Hyperzone. Fabulous. Fabulous Haiti Rockette works here. Kind of a newer, I think the first of its kind, perhaps. And here is OK and Cancel. Together here with some brilliant colors and choice of buttons, edition of 1. And offers coming in. Here is Andre Olivero Cebola, H, the letter H, done as pixel art. Edition of 100 for 50 cents, 50 Tezos cents. Here's Juanito, Pixel Land. So playing with this kind of video game perspective over here, edition of 13, that is sold out. Here's Stippen Pixel. Nice work here on really cool pixel artist, right? As you see here. I believe out of Argentina, and this is on Zora. And here is mech.txt, who of course I follow. Gorgeous colors here. Living in the Capital, great piece. Love the purple and kind of beige. Mark Trevai, Blue Sky with Code. Is that what it's called? With Clouds. Nice little pixel artwork here, edition of 10, still available for Tezos 20. Here is Element Lee with some necklaces. Glad to see posting on X here. So cool work here in a different color, right? As we're discussing, here's another one, Flow and Discrete here. So one variation here and one variation there. So all very interesting artistic research, as they say. Zofio Gore, who of course I follow. I'm doing this game to mint on Tezos and it's almost ready. So pretty cool. Looks like a mini video game that will be minted. Pretty rad. And here is Murray Pixel. This is also on Zora. Another kind of anime meets pixel art. And my functions here. Computer is starting to freeze. I'm going to have to actually just move through. This has music. I can't, just to give you a taste. This is on Object. Great to see Murakit on Object. This is Strano, Pixel Painting Exercise. So more interesting work from Strano. Here is Canik Zapata with a cool landscape here. Nice GIF, edition of 1, only 40 Tezos. And here is Demon Ego. This is pretty cool. Playing video games with his brother. Love this piece. This is a brilliant piece. I hope it's minted somewhere. Great subject. I can totally relate to that. Shout out to my older brother. Armilk 88. This is awesome. Where the Windows operating system meets basically an image. And then even underneath the part upside down at the top there. Perfect Loop, Wake. Kind of a fun work here. Also using probably Windows 95. And here's another one by Perfect Loop. I think it's called Endless Dungeon. It is. Edition of 100 for 7 Tezos 30. Here's Pixelare, Rothko Lives. And so a homage to Rothko here, and someone in front, a pixel art homage. And here is Native Ed. And not sure, we're going to have to come back to that Native Ed. DJ Kiro, picked up by Sabato for 10 Tezos. Cool work here, kind of a different take on the video paintings, on the abstracts, lounging. And here's Nebular, part of the Sovereign Permanent Collection, the Other, edition of 1. And this sold for 120 Tezos, nice sale. LB Touchgrass, cool new work by LB. This is on Object, edition of 15. Here's Feels. So very cool, 121 retweets. Doing well here, very cool colors there, animated abstract. Here's Max Drecker, who continues to post new work here awesomely on Object, Twitch, edition of 15. Kind of a classic Tezos artist. And here, Renki Tsurugata with another animated abstract. And I'm going to go a little quickly here. Apologies to the artists. And I'm going to leave this Donald Judd work. And we have to come back. I'm going to come back to this work here. Here's a Salawaki 3D work, fish tank. And this is edition of 20 for 35 Tezos. If I don't speed up, we'll lose the entire show. Danielle King, Eurydice. Cool AI artwork here from Danielle King. Kind of cool rendition of a Greek mythological character, Sabato, with another interesting car. Using AI, edition of 1 for 60 Tezos, still available. Here is Mr. Bezold, John Bezold, 1 of 1 for 5 Tezos. So playing with these great ceramic things, looking like it's out of a museum. Strange thing with a cool new, I think it's a new work here. Playing with Renaissance and modern iconography. Great to see Strange Thing posting. White Solitude, Silent Bond. Cool AI painting. Great textures here by White Solitude, edition of 10 for 10 Tezos. And here's Maternity Restrictions by Naked Galena. I believe a physical. Pretty nice work here. By Naked Galena, watercolors on paper. And here's Die with the Most Likes, Eat More Meat. Continuing to actually get really, really impressive, frankly, in the physicals. Loving the combination of black and white and the color. Thank you for joining me, my friends. Until next time, take care.